Stormfront Publishing presents Shadows of Valor. Written by James Krieger and Adolf Riker. Performed by Thomas Richter. Chapter 4. The difference between a warrior and a soldier is that a soldier fights because he is told to, while a warrior fights because he chooses to. Unknown. June 15, 1945, 0247. Local time. Red Ball Express route, Bavaria, American occupation zone. The deuce-and-a-half's engine knocked like a drunk at a whorehouse door. Private First Class Marvin F. Hinton, 6'4", 260, hands like canned hams, downshifted hard enough to make the transmission scream. Red Ball Express didn't stop for nothing. Not leftover snipers, not bomb-cratered roads, not even the Lord himself. Gas, ammo, and rations to the occupation forces. Sleep when you're dead. "Keep 'em rolling," Roadblock muttered in a Biloxi drawl thick as molasses, mimicking the lieutenant who'd given the orders 16 hours ago. Easy for him to say. He ain't the one driving since yesterday morning. Headlights off. Regulations on the express, even in occupied territory. Cat-eye slits only. The road was a black ribbon through darker forest, cratered from the war's final spasms. Every pothole felt like it was personally trying to rearrange his kidneys. The truck bed groaned under its typical cargo, ammo, rations, supplies, whatever the war machine needed to roll. His stomach growled. The K-ration he'd choked down at the last depot sat like a brick in his gut. Ham and eggs, the label claimed, tasted more like ham and sawdust. The convoy ahead materialized from the darkness, 3 half-tracks grinding along at maybe 15 miles per hour. American vehicles, Third Army markings visible in the dim light. Some officers' escort by the look of it, the staff car in the middle gave it away. Roadblock eased off the accelerator. Even Brass had to use the express route sometimes. He'd wait. Maybe catch a quick nap if they stopped. The convoy crawled forward at parade speed, 15 miles per hour max. At this rate, they'd reach Munich sometime next Christmas. Roadblock's eyelids felt like they had lead weights attached. He fumbled for his canteen, took a swig of warm water that tasted like the metal container it lived in. 2 hours ground by. The convoy never picked up speed. Whatever Brass was riding in that staff car clearly wasn't in any hurry. Roadblock's back screamed from the truck's shot suspension. His hands had gone numb from gripping the wheel. The knocked engine developed a new sound, a high-pitched whine that cut through the diesel rumble. "Lord, give me strength," he muttered, working his shoulders to get some feeling back. They passed through a destroyed village. Not a light showing, not even a candle. Just rubble and ghosts. The convoy ahead never varied speed. Roadblock could make out the gunner in the rear half-track now, slumped against his 50. Probably asleep. Lucky bastard. Another hour. The forest pressed in on both sides, black walls of pine. No moon tonight, clouds thick as wool. Just the half-track's cat eyes leading him on. Roadblock caught himself drifting, jerked awake as the truck veered toward the ditch. "Come on, Marvin, stay sharp." He slapped his own face hard. The sting helped for about 30 seconds. His mind wandered to better times. His mama's kitchen in Biloxi, the smell of gumbo simmering all day. Cornbread fresh from the oven, sweet tea so cold it hurt your teeth. What he wouldn't give for. The truck ahead tapped its brakes. Roadblock snapped back to reality, eased off the gas. The convoy was slowing even more. Maybe stopping? Please, God, let them be stopping. Even 5 minutes to stretch his legs would... The night exploded. The lead half-track lifted off the ground, its front end rising like a bucking horse. The mine underneath detonated with a flash that turned night to day. The vehicle crashed back down, broke in half at the middle, fuel tanks rupturing. Flames whooshed up 20 feet, blocking the road with burning wreckage. Men screamed, some thrown clear, others trapped in twisted metal. Then the small arms opened up. Muzzle flashes erupted from both sides of the road. A burst of automatic fire spider-webbed his windshield. Glass showered down like deadly snow. Roadblock threw himself sideways across the bench seat as rounds punched through where his head had been. "Lord have mercy." He kicked open the passenger door, rolled out onto the road. More rounds sparked off the truck's frame. The burning half-track lit up the kill zone like a flare. Shadows dancing, men silhouetted as they scrambled for cover. Perfect targets, sitting ducks. Behind him, the deuce-and-a-half kept rolling. He'd never set the brake. The truck crept forward at idle speed, maybe 2 miles per hour, driverless. Oh well, it would give him cover while he moved. From the middle half-track, a sergeant was already returning fire with his Thompson, short controlled bursts into the tree line. The man moved like a professional, fire and displace, never staying still long enough to be targeted. Roadblock shimmied along the side of the slowly moving truck bed, using it as a mobile shield. Rounds punched through the canvas covering, searching for bodies that weren't there. He reached under the canvas, fingers finding cold metal. Come on, baby. Time to solve some problems. He hauled out the M2 Browning, 50 caliber, 84 pounds of John Moses Browning's finest work. He'd found it at a depot, mislabeled and forgotten. The quartermaster was drunk, the paperwork was sloppy, the Lord provides. The truck was still creeping forward, starting to angle toward the ditch. Roadblock slammed in a belt of API, armor-piercing incendiary. Charged the handle. That mechanical chunk was sweet as his mama's cornbread. He stood. Hip-fired the 50th. The recoil tried to drive him backward. He leaned in, all 260 pounds of Biloxi muscle holding the gun steady. The M2 spoke with the voice of an angry god. "That's right," Roadblock shouted, walking forward. Not running. Walking. Like he was strolling down Dauphin Street on a Sunday. "Y'all done messed up now." A tree exploded where his rounds hit. The man behind it exploded with it. The sergeant from the half-track, Roadblock could see his stripes now, rallied the survivors, using the 50's suppression to de-ass from the half-tracks. Smart, professional, moved like he'd done this before. An attacker broke cover, rushing the staff car with something in his hands. Roadblock swiveled slightly. The burst cut the man in half at the waist. Top half went one way, bottom half went the other. Whatever he'd been carrying detonated in a ditch, killing 2 other attackers. "Roadblock's kitchen is open for business," he kept advancing. 10 yards, 20. The M2's barrel glowed cherry red. "And tonight's special is pain." The sergeant had reached a better position, his Thompson chattering. He was herding the ambushers, driving them into Roadblock's field of fire. Several soldiers popped smoke grenades to try and provide additional cover. Behind them, the GIs were hammering back at the tree line. M1 Garands cracked in disciplined volleys. A bar gunner had set up behind the lead half-track's wheel, pouring automatic fire into suspected positions. Someone had gotten the 30 cal on the rear vehicle working, its deeper chatter joining the symphony. They weren't panicking anymore. The big man walking into machine gun fire with the 50 and the aggressive airborne sergeant had turned the ambush into a counter-assault. 3 attackers tried to rush Roadblock from the left. Bad idea. The 50 found them. API rounds didn't just kill, they unmade. One man's chest cavity opened like a flower. Another lost everything above the shoulders. The third made it 3 steps before physics caught up and he fell in 2 different directions. The belt ran dry, sudden silence except for the ringing in everyone's ears. Roadblock threw the smoking M2 to the ground, scooped up a Garand from a dead GI. The rifle was scorched, stock blackened from fire. He tested the weight. 8 pounds of American oak and steel. Perfect. An attacker rose from a ditch 10 feet away. Roadblock swung the Garand like he was hitting a home run. The stock connected with the man's jaw. The crack echoed across the battlefield. Jaw, neck, and good portion of skull separated from their owner. The sergeant appeared at his shoulder, Thompson ready. 2 more, left side, behind that boulder. Roadblock didn't question how the man knew. Just brought the rifle down overhead as the first attacker came around the rock. The man's head drove down into his chest cavity. He stood there a moment, 3 feet tall, before toppling. The sergeant's Thompson caught the second one center mass. 5 rounds, tight grouping. Professional. "Who else wants some?" Roadblock's voice boomed. "Biloxi special, coming right up." 2 more tried to flank them. Roadblock caught the first with a horizontal swing that caved in ribs like a xylophone. The sergeant put 3 rounds through the second's head before he could raise his weapon. "Drop your weapons! U.S. Army!" Savage's voice cut through the gunfire. "Surrender now!" The surviving attackers began throwing down their arms, hands rising. One of them was shouting in accented English, Scottish or Northern English. "We surrender! We surrender! Don't shoot!" From the staff car, a commanding, gravelly voice. "Cease fire! Cease fucking fire! I want some alive!" The passenger door opened. Out stepped General George S. Patton, Jr., ivory-handled pistols in hand, blood on his face from glass cuts, but standing straight as a parade review. Roadblock kept the bent Garand ready as 7 attackers knelt in the road. In the growing dawn light, their uniforms were visible. British pattern, modified, dark leather and blackened brass. By God! Magnificent! Absolutely magnificent! Patton surveyed the carnage, ivory-handled pistols in hand, blood on his face from glass cuts. Caesar himself couldn't have executed a better defense. Sergeant Savage, I should have known you'd be in the thick of it. "Wrong place, right time, General," the sergeant replied. "Story of your life." Patton turned to Roadblock. "And you, haven't seen a Negro fight like that since the Great War. What's your name, son?" "Private First Class Marvin Hinton, sir. They call me Roadblock." "Roadblock, by God, that's apt. You turned these communist assassins into carrion." Patton kicked one of the kneeling men. "British commandos. I recognize the insignia. 5th Highland Regiment. So tell me, you Highland bastard, since when does His Majesty's Iron Devils do Moscow's wet work?" The man looked up. Blood ran from a scalp wound. "Orders, sir. We were told there was a Nazi general. Escaping in American uniform." "Nazi general." Patton's laugh had no humor. "And who told you this fairy tale?" "OSS, sir. American intelligence. Authenticated codes. Everything proper." The commando's accent was thick Glasgow. "Said the real Patton was stateside. You were a double. Had documents. Proof." "OSS." Patton's laugh was sharp as shrapnel. "Those Ivy League amateurs playing at espionage. They've read too much Marx and not enough Clausewitz." He pressed his pistol to the commando's forehead. "What fairy tale did they spin to make you dance?" "Photos of executions, SS prisoners shot without trial, war crimes." The commando was sweating despite the cool morning. "They said you were heading for Spain, selling secrets to Franco." "Interesting." Patton holstered his pistol. "Boyer." 2 GIs worked a crowbar against the lead staff car's rear door, metal groaning. The burning half-track had been blown sideways by the mine, its twisted bulk pinning the vehicle between 2 half-tracks. With a screech, the door finally gave. A thin lieutenant colonel squeezed out, Thompson in hand, glasses cracked but intact. Spent brass littered the car's interior. Despite being trapped, he'd managed to shoot through the window, putting rounds into at least 2 attackers. Now free, he was already directing survivors with sharp gestures, pointing men to secure the flanks, checking the wounded. The Thompson never wavered from covering the prisoners. "Sir? Get these prisoners secured. Full interrogation. I want to know exactly who in the OSS ordered this." Patton turned to Roadblock. "You, Hinton. You just saved my life and showed the kind of initiative I need. How'd you like to join my special unit?" "Sir? Private Hinton, in 2 minutes you showed more initiative than most officers display in a career. Napoleon said, 'I'd rather have a lucky general than a good one.' You're both, and by God, that's what victory demands. I'm assembling warriors for the next war, because mark my words, it's coming. The Soviets are sharpening their knives while Washington plays politics. How'd you like to join my unit?" Roadblock looked at the bent Garand in his hands, at the scattered bodies, at Savage, who watched with the patience of a professional soldier. "Do I get to cook, sir? All I've wanted to be my whole life is be a chef." "A warrior chef. By God, even Alexander fed his men well before battle. You keep fighting like you did today, I'll get you a kitchen that would make Escoffier weep. Prime beef from Texas, spices from the Orient, whatever keeps a fighter like you content." "Then I'm your man, General." "Outstanding. Patton surveyed the killing ground once more. Gentlemen, some desk-bound traitor in Washington tried to remove me like a chess piece. They failed because they don't understand. This isn't about politics. It's about the survival of Western civilization. The real war isn't ending. It's evolving. And by God, we'll be ready. Roadblock hefted the ruined Garand. I'm good at solving problems, sir. The killing ground steamed in the morning light. Roadblock helped drag bodies to a canvas tarp on the roadside, what was left of them. The 50 cal had done its work too well. Some of the Iron Devils needed multiple trips. Christ almighty, one of the surviving GIs muttered, holding what might have been a torso. You really chewed those limey bastards up? Lord provides the tools. I just use 'em, Roadblock said, heaving a relatively intact corpse onto the pile. Savage's men supervised the prisoners, Thompson casual but ready. The British commandos sat in the dirt, hands tied with communications wire. Professional soldiers reduced to failed assassins. Their sergeant, McLeod, according to his tags, kept his eyes on the ground. Outstanding work this morning, Sergeant. Patton appeared, fresh cigar clamped between his teeth. Boyer shadowed him, clipboard in hand, cataloging the dead. That flanking maneuver was textbook. Thank you, sir. Savage's voice stayed neutral. 101st Airborne Training. They taught us to adapt. All those jumps from Normandy to Berchtesgaden. Patton's eyes glinted. That's why you're on my team, Sergeant. We made no mistake recruiting you. Yes, sir. Savage kept watching the prisoners. Patton turned to Boyer. How long until transport arrives? 20 minutes, General. Motor pool's sending a convoy. Good. Can't wait around forever. He watched Roadblock stack another body. Tell me, Private Hinton, that 50 caliber, not standard express equipment. Roadblock straightened, back popping. Found it at a depot, sir. Paperwork said it was surplus. Seemed ashamed to leave it. Initiative. I like that. Patton stepped over a severed arm. You know what we need in this new world, gentlemen. Men who see opportunities, who take action without waiting for permission, who solve problems with extreme prejudice. A rumble from the east, 5 fresh deuce-and-a-halves grinding up the road clean and fueled. The convoy pulled up short of the burning half-track. The motor pool sergeant climbed from the lead jeep, took one look at the scattered bodies and pieces illuminated by the flames, and turned green. That's our ride. Patton flicked ash onto a corpse. Hinton, you're with Boyer and Savage. Time you learned what you volunteered for. As they loaded into the vehicles, Patton pulled Boyer aside, voice low enough that only the lieutenant colonel could hear. Alec, once you've wrung every bit of intelligence from those British commandos, get them prepped and frozen. No survivors from this ambush, officially. They might prove useful in time. Boyer's expression didn't change. Understood, General. Good man. Patton clapped him on the shoulder, then raised his voice to normal volume. Safe travels, gentlemen. Roadblock headed for the staff car, then stopped. Almost forgot my baby. He jogged back to where the M2 lay cooling in the dirt, barrel still faintly glowing. 84 pounds of proven problem solver. He hefted it like other men carried rifles, muscles bunching under his torn jacket. You bringing that thing? Savage asked, already behind the wheel. Never leave a good woman behind. Roadblock carefully laid the 50 across the trunk, securing it with rope from the vehicle's kit. The car's suspension groaned but held. Besides, she ain't done working yet. 10 minutes later, they were rolling through the Bavarian countryside. Savage drove with the same careful attention he'd shown checking the vehicle. Roadblock sat across from Boyer in the back, his bulk making the car list slightly. Hell of a thing, this ordeal, Savage said, eyes never leaving the road. British commandos. Our own allies. Boyer's expression didn't change. According to them, they thought they were doing us a favor, stopping a Nazi infiltrator. Yeah, Savage's grip tightened on the wheel. Sure they did. The June afternoon was growing warm, but Roadblock could still smell cordite in his clothes, still feel the Browning's weight in his arms. 13 men dead before breakfast, just another day in the peace. So this unit the General's building, Roadblock said. It got a name? Boyer pulled out his silver cigarette case, offered one to Roadblock, who shook his head. Several names, actually. Depends who's asking. For Congress, we're Administrative Unit 5017. For the Army, we're a Special Projects Division. For anyone who matters, he lit up, cracked the window. We're calling it G.I. Joe. Roadblock stared at him. Come again. G.I. Joe. Government issue. Joe. The ultimate American fighting man. Boyer's thin lips quirked. We're building quite the roster. G.I. Joe. Roadblock rolled it around in his mouth like he was tasting spoiled milk. That's the dumbest name I've ever heard. Sounds like something from a comic book. Savage snorted from the front seat. No offense, Colonel, but he's right. Sounds like something you'd sell to kids with decoder rings. The General's idea, Boyer said. He says it needs to sound unthreatening, bureaucratic, the kind of unit name that gets lost in filing cabinets. While we do what exactly? Roadblock asked. Whatever needs doing. Boyer watched a burned-out Panther tank slide past, its long gun still pointing at ghosts. The war's changing, gentlemen. It's not about moving armies anymore. It's about surgical strikes, intelligence operations, stopping problems before they become wars. Problems like Allied kill teams trying to assassinate American generals? Savage's voice was carefully neutral. Boyer's hands tightened on his cigarette. Especially those kinds of problems. The staff car wound through a destroyed village. Roadblock could see Germans clearing rubble, women in headscarves, children playing in bomb craters. The war was over, but the dying continued, slower now, from hunger and disease instead of bullets. Tell me about the OSS, Roadblock said. Office of Strategic Services, our intelligence arm. Cowboys and professors playing spy. Boyer flicked ash out the window. Problem is, they've been operating without oversight for too long, making their own policies, their own alliances. Some of them seem to have forgotten which flag they serve. So they tried to kill Patton. Savage said it flat, like stating the weather. Allegedly. Boyer's tone suggested the allegation was fact. The general's been vocal about his concerns. Says we're disarming too fast. Says the Soviets are positioning for the next war while we're sending everyone home. Says we should be recruiting Germans to help contain Stalin. Is he wrong? Roadblock asked. That's above all our pay grades. Another village, this one intact. American flags hung next to white sheets. But someone thinks he's wrong enough to risk using British commandos as assassins. They turned onto a dirt road, fresh gravel crunching under the tires. Through the trees, Roadblock could see new construction. Guard towers, triple-strand wire, the clean lines of military architecture. German POW camp? Roadblock asked. Displaced persons facility, Boyer corrected. Officially? Though yes, we're processing prisoners here too. German soldiers and scientists mostly. Technical specialists, the kind of minds we'll need. For G.I. Joe. Roadblock couldn't keep the skepticism out of his voice. Among other projects. Boyer ground out his cigarette. Let me explain something, gentlemen. The Soviets have half of Europe. They have 10 million men under arms. They have German rocket scientists, German atomic researchers, German everything they could grab. You think they're planning to go home and farm potatoes? The first checkpoint appeared. MPs with Thompsons, concrete barriers, dragon's teeth. Papers checked, double-checked. They rolled forward 50 yards to another checkpoint. More guards, dogs, a mirror on a pole to check the undercarriage. Thorough, Roadblock observed, a third checkpoint. This time they had to exit the vehicle. Guards searched the car while others checked their IDs against a list. Roadblock noticed the machine gun nests, overlapping fields of fire. Whoever designed this expected trouble. Finally waved through, they entered what looked like a standard motor pool. Quonset huts, maintenance bays, trucks in various states of repair. Savage pulled into a marked space near a concrete structure. This way, Boyer said. The structure looked like a garage. Reinforced doors, no windows. Boyer showed papers to another set of guards. The doors opened, revealing not a garage but a platform. Industrial elevator, big enough for a deuce-and-a-half. Drive on, Boyer instructed. Savage eased the car onto the platform. The doors closed, that sinking sensation as they descended. 10 seconds. 20. 30. How deep were they going? The platform stopped. Doors opened on the opposite side. Underground parking, carved from living rock. Electric lights every 20 feet. Other vehicles already parked. Jeeps, staff cars, even a half-track. Sweet buttery biscuits, Roadblock muttered. We expanded existing infrastructure, Boyer said. The Germans were thoughtful enough to do most of the excavation. We just improved it. They parked in a marked space. The underground garage stretched in both directions, disappearing into darkness. Roadblock could hear ventilation fans, the drip of water, the echo of their footsteps. You mentioned your culinary interests. Sergeant Savage, escort Private Hinton to Kitchen Complex B. Show him what we're working with. Savage nodded. This way. They split up, Boyer heading toward a steel door marked Authorized Personnel Only. Savage led Roadblock down a side corridor. The walls were rough-cut stone with modern additions. Electrical conduit, water pipes, air ducts. Everything neat, organized, efficient. How deep are we? Roadblock asked. 100 feet, maybe more. Germans built it as a command bunker. Whole mountain's hollow. Savage's voice echoed slightly. They turned another corner. The smell hit Roadblock first. Bread baking, meat roasting, real food instead of army slop. Double doors ahead. Through the porthole windows, Roadblock could see stainless steel gleaming under bright lights. Savage pushed through. The kitchen was a dream. Commercial-grade everything. Ranges that could handle a dozen pots. Ovens big enough to roast whole pigs. Walk-in freezers. Prep stations with marble tops. Equipment Roadblock had only seen in New Orleans hotels. Holy mother of... Roadblock moved like a man in church, ran his hands over a pristine 8-burner range. This is how... Patton pulled strings. Said a warrior fights better on a full stomach. Savage leaned against a prep table. You really know how to use all this? My mama ran a kitchen in Biloxi. Fed longshoremen, sailors, anybody with 50 cents. Roadblock opened an oven, checking the seal. Taught me everything. Then I cooked in 300 camps, army messes, anywhere they'd let me near a stove. He found the pantry, stocked like a general's wet dream. Spices he hadn't seen since before the war. Real vanilla, not that synthetic garbage. Flour in sealed containers. Sugar, Lord have mercy, actual sugar. The general wasn't joking, Roadblock whispered. He rarely does. Savage checked his watch. We should head back. Boyer'll want to finish your briefing. But Roadblock had found the meat locker. Sides of beef, whole chickens, ham, bacon that wasn't green at the edges. He stood there like a man witnessing revelation. Roadblock, you know what we had on the express? K rations. C rations if we were lucky. Spam that fought back. He closed the locker reverently. I could feed an army with this. A real meal. Hot food that don't taste like cardboard soaked in grease. That's the idea. Savage's expression softened slightly. Lot of special personnel coming through. International types. Need to keep them happy, fed, cooperative. They headed back through the corridors. Roadblock's mind was already working. Menus, preparation times, how many he could feed with that equipment. Give him 2 assistants and he could handle 100 easy. The 101st, Roadblock said as they walked. You at Bastogne? 3 weeks in frozen hell. Savage's voice went flat. Kraut artillery every day. No supplies, no winter gear, eating snow because we ran out of water. Lost 2 toes to frostbite. But you held? We held. A ghost of pride. Nuts to surrender, though I'd have traded my jump wings for 1 hot meal. Just 1. They found Boyer in a briefing room carved from stone. Maps covered every flat surface. Red pins, blue pins, enough colors for a rainbow. Photos tacked to boards. Faces Roadblock didn't recognize. Locations he couldn't identify. Ah, gentlemen. How's the kitchen, Private? It's perfect, sir. Roadblock couldn't keep the grin off his face. When do I start? Tomorrow. Boyer pulled out a folder. But first, paperwork, security clearances, agreements, the kind of documents that mean federal prison if you break them. Or worse, Savage added. Yes, or worse. Boyer spread the papers out. G.I. Joe operates outside normal military channels. What you see here, what you hear here, stays here. Forever. No war stories in bars, no letters home about the funny underground base, nothing. Roadblock started reading. Dense legal language, but the meaning was clear. Sign this. Keep your mouth shut or disappear. The British commandos this morning, he said. They part of this? Unknown. Being investigated. Boyer's tone suggested violent investigation. But it highlights why security matters. We have enemies. Some wear Soviet uniforms, some wear our own, until we know which is which. We trust nobody, Savage finished. We trust each other, Boyer corrected. G.I. Joe becomes your family, your only family. The men and women recruited here will have your back in places the Army can't officially go. In exchange, you give them absolute loyalty. Women, Roadblock looked up from the papers. Several. Specialists in various fields. The Soviets use female operatives extensively. We need people who can counter them. He thought about this morning. British commandos with American intelligence, the world turning upside down before breakfast. Then he thought about that kitchen, those supplies, the chance to cook real food for people doing necessary work. He signed. Welcome to G.I. Joe, Boyer said, collecting the papers. We'll discuss your duties later. Sergeant Savage, show Private Hinton to quarters. I need to check on something. Boyer left them in the briefing room, navigating the stone corridors with practiced ease. 2 lefts, a right down a flight of steel stairs. The communications hub occupied a natural cavern, expanded and reinforced with concrete. Banks of radio equipment lined the walls. SCR 300s, British number 19 sets, even some captured German gear. The air hummed with electricity and purpose. Colonel Boyer! A technician looked up from his station, headphones around his neck. Your priority call to London came through, sir. Line 3 in the secure booth. Thank you, Corporal. Boyer stepped into the soundproof chamber, picked up the handset. Weather report? Cloudy with a chance of rain in Dover. The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. But clearing toward Brighton, Boyer completed the phrase. Hello, Colonel. This line clean? Clean as a whistle. Boyer never recognized the voice. Agent faces, real name classified above his level. Though these days, who knows what that means? I need you to look into something. The attack on General Patton this morning. British commandos claiming OSS authorization. A pause. Static crackled across the Atlantic connection. That's going to be tricky, Colonel. Everyone's suddenly very tight-lipped about anything involving Patton. Doors closing, files disappearing. You know how it is. How high does it go? High. Another pause. Boyer could picture faces in some anonymous London office, choosing his words carefully. Maybe all the way to the top. There's talk about Patton being a liability. His mouth, his opinions about our Soviet allies. Some people think the war's over, and it's time for warriors to step aside. Some people are idiots. No argument here, but idiots with power are dangerous. Papers rustled on the other end. I'll do what I can, but don't expect miracles. Whatever's happening, it's got cover from people who matter. Just get me names. I'll handle the rest. Careful, Colonel. You're playing in the deepest water now, and there are sharks circling. The line went dead. Boyer hung up, stood in the booth for a moment while he collected his thoughts. British commandos with American authorization. Someone high up wanted Patton gone. The implications spread like spilled ink. He stepped out of the booth to find the technician waiting. Sir, we've also got traffic from our assets in Berlin. The Russians are moving more equipment east than their declarations show. Whole armored divisions just vanishing from the records. Log it all. Every detail. Boyer headed for the door. And Corporal, that call to London never happened. What call, sir? Boyer allowed himself a thin smile. Good men here, loyal men. They'd need that loyalty in the days ahead, because if Agent Faces was right, if the rot went all the way to the top, then G.I. Joe wasn't just preparing for external enemies anymore. The sharks were already inside the boat. Thank you for listening to this audiobook. I'm Thomas Richter, and it's been an honor to share this story with you. If you're ready for your next mission, we've got a full arsenal of series waiting for you on this platform. Each one is locked and loaded with the kind of stories that keep you pressing forward no matter what. For those who march to the beat of our soundtrack, all of our music is deployed across every major streaming platform: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, you name it. Just search for Springfield Syndrome or the audiobook title to add it to your playlist. Your support keeps us in the fight, and we'd be grateful if you'd drop us a review wherever you grab this audiobook. Your feedback is our intel. It helps us improve our operations and helps other listeners find their next objective. Stay strong, stay sharp, and remember, the only easy day was yesterday. This is Thomas Richter, signing off.